What if I told you unlimited power doesn't actually exist, even off-grid, and the people who think it does are the ones who run out the fastest? Today, we're breaking down power without limits, not as a fantasy, but as a system. Because the moment you step away from the grid, electricity stops being something you use freely and becomes something you have to create, store, and manage every single day. At first, it feels like freedom. You install solar panels, set up batteries, maybe add a generator, and suddenly you're producing your own energy. No bills, no dependence, full control. But very quickly, you realize something important. Power is not about how much you generate. It's about how well you manage it over time. Because energy off-grid is not constant, it's variable, and that changes everything. Solar depends on sunlight, which means weather, seasons, and even time of day directly affect your output. And this is where most people make their first mistake. They design for perfect conditions, not real ones. On a clear summer day, your system might feel unlimited. Panels producing at full capacity, batteries full, everything running smoothly. It creates a false sense of abundance, but that same system in winter or during multiple cloudy days becomes a completely different reality, where input drops and every watt starts to matter. And this is where the concept of limits becomes real. Your battery is not infinite, it's storage. And once it's drained, your system resets to zero until you generate again. And if your usage is higher than your production over time, you are not living off-grid. You are slowly running out of power. That's the core principle most people overlook. Off-grid energy is a balance, not a supply. Every device you use is part of that equation. Lighting, refrigeration, tools, heating, charging devices. It all adds up. Without awareness, consumption can quietly exceed production without you noticing until it's too late. This is why experienced off-grid setups don't aim for unlimited power. They aim for predictable power, because predictability is what creates stability. You know how much you produce on average, how much you store, and how much you can safely use without risking depletion. That creates a system that works long-term instead of just looking good on paper. But here's where it gets more interesting. Because power without limits is not about producing more. It's about needing less. Efficiency becomes more valuable than generation. Using energy-efficient appliances, reducing waste, designing systems that minimize unnecessary consumption. These are the things that make power feel unlimited, not oversized panels or massive batteries. Because if your system is inefficient, no amount of generation will ever feel like enough. And if your system is efficient, even a moderate setup can feel stable and reliable. Then there's redundancy, another layer most people ignore. Real off-grid systems don't rely on a single source. Solar is primary, but there's often backup, generators, alternative charging methods, or even manual solutions. Because no limits doesn't mean nothing can fail. It means your system can recover when something does. And that's the difference between a setup that works sometimes and one that works consistently. Now, let's talk about the mental shift, because this is where everything changes. On-grid, you don't think about energy, you just use it. Off-grid, you become aware of every watt, every hour of sunlight, every charge cycle, and over time, that awareness turns into control. You stop guessing and start managing. You know when to use power freely and when to conserve. You understand your system instead of relying on it blindly. And that's the closest thing to power without limits you can actually achieve. Not infinite energy, but complete awareness and control over what you have. Because in the end, the people who succeed off-grid are not the ones chasing maximum output. They're the ones building balanced systems. They don't run out because they don't overextend. They don't depend on perfect conditions because they plan for imperfect ones. And they don't assume unlimited power. They create systems that feel unlimited because they are stable. That's the real takeaway. Power without limits is not about removing limits. It's about designing a system where limits are understood. And once you reach that point, energy stops being a constant concern and becomes something you control instead of something that controls you. If you want more deep, realistic breakdowns like this about off-grid power, system design, and what actually works long-term, subscribe to Off Grid Life Tech.